This video is going to be talking about how to use counterarguments to persuade your audience. Most of us fully understand what facts and opinions are. Opinions are how we feel about something, whether we like something or not. Facts are verifiable truths. So a persuasive presentation is your opinion supported by facts or expert opinions. When you give a persuasive presentation, some people are going to disagree with you. But you really want to try to understand why they have those beliefs. Why do they feel different than you do? If you look at this simple picture below, one person sees it as a 6, the other person as a 9. Now, it's not that either one is wrong or right, but from where they're standing, they see life at a different perspective. One technique used to persuade people can be using a counterargument. There's 4 steps of a counterargument, which I'm going to go through in this video. For the example of a counterargument, let's say I am against the death penalty and I'm trying to persuade people to feel how I feel. So this would be maybe a basic counterargument you would use to persuade someone. If we look at the first step, it says proponents of the death penalty, that's people who are for the death penalty, often make the argument that it is cheaper to put criminals to death than it is to keep them in prison. Now this is the opposing argument and the first step of a counterargument. The second step, it is true that prisons are expensive, but they are less expensive than putting someone to death. So the second step of the counterargument is to make a concession statement. How true is this statement, the opposing argument statement? The third step, studies have shown that the money spent on court fees, public attorney fees, and appeal fees are far higher in death penalty cases. So this is what we call a counterpoint. This is how I feel, my point. And then the fourth step is to give evidence that supports your counterpoint. So let's look at the first step in a little more detail. So the first step again is to state the opposing argument. So you only want to state their main argument. You don't want to give a lot of details about the argument. Most of the time should be spent on your argument. All it is a sentence or two just stating how do people feel that see things from a different perspective. Now for the counterargument, the second step is very important. The second step comments on the validity of their argument. Now you usually make some type of concession statement for their argument. So you can say that their argument is true or partially true. You can even make statements like, well, the argument is true, but the information is out of date, or it's invalid for what we're talking about right now. But what you do not want to do is attack the other side. You do not want to make the other side feel stupid. Remember, they're not stupid just because they feel differently than you. They just have a different perspective on the issue at hand. The third step in a counterargument is to put your counterpoint out there. How do you feel? So the first step again, to state how they feel. The second step to say how true or not true it is. The third step now is to make a counterpoint. The counterpoint is stating how you feel. But just because you feel a certain way does not mean it's going to change someone's mind. So what you need to do is to state your opinion and then find evidence that supports your opinion. You want to provide ample evidence to support your opinion. The stronger the evidence you use, the more effective it will be to persuade people. So really quickly, let's look at the 4 steps of a counterargument again. The first step is to state the opposition's opinion. What do they feel? The second step is to have some type of concession statement. This is stating how valid the argument is. Now, it could be false or out of date, invalid information, or just partially true, but you want to state how valid their information is. The third thing is to state your opinion. What is your argument? And then fourth, and very important, you have to have evidence that supports your opinion. If I was going to have a debate about the death penalty, or I wanted just to prepare many counter arguments, I might make something that looks like this. I can have death penalty and arguments for and against with different categories. So maybe one category might be deterrence. That means to stop people from committing the crime. Second category could be discrimination. Third category could be cost. Now, if you look in deterrence, I have the second one down is in bold. It says DP, which means death penalty. People for the death penalty state that the death penalty deters future crime. However, if I wanted to make a counter argument against that, I can look in my against column and make a counter argument. So maybe my counter argument might be, well, actually, that is not true. States that don't use the death penalty have generally lower murder rates. So I first state their argument, the death penalty deters future crimes. I say that is not true, and then I give my statement against that. Then, of course, I need evidence to support my statement. Understanding both sides only strengthens your position. If you can understand why people have different opinions, then you have a much greater chance to influence them. If you don't take time to really consider how the other person feels, they're not going to take time to consider your feelings either. So if you want to persuade someone, actually really do consider how they feel and why they feel the way they feel.